Welcome to the Building to Scale podcast, where we bring real entrepreneur stories that showcase the challenges and successes in building and scaling an entrepreneurial business. Our host, Jeff Chastain, is a business transformation coach with Admentis, where he coaches business leaders and their teams with a proven set of principles and tools, helping them gain clarity in and get more of what they want from their business. Make sure to stick around until the end of the show, and we will reveal how you can become our next guest.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Building to Scale podcast. Again, my name is Jeff Chastain, and I'm going to tell you up front, this episode is going to be a little bit different than usual. No guest today. We're going to make this one short and sweet. It's going to be really kind of a combination goodbye and announcement all wrapped up into one. So dive right on in here with this. So looking at this one, obviously recording right here, the latter part of August Q3 already. I'm not real sure how in the world we've already made it to August. It seems like on one hand, 2021 has been a very long year, and obviously how in the world are we wrapping up Q3? But if you look at 2021, obviously, as if 2020 needed topping for any reason, this has still been a challenging year for many small businesses out there. So I know many of you have been facing financial trials, financial issues, dealing back to the shutdowns, dealing back to the pandemic that is now actually kind of resurging, it looks like. While at the same time, others have been experiencing challenges on the opposite end of the spectrum. It's challenges of unplanned explosions of growth due to, again, your industry or your location, things like that. So it's been challenges really across the board, again, for small businesses. And it's one of those things that obviously not planned. Nobody planned for coming into a pandemic or anything, but I always look at or talk to business owners saying, hey, as soon as you think you've got things figured out, as soon as you think you've got business changed or figured out, there's going to be a change thrown at you. So we've got to be able to roll kind of with the punches, make sure that we can keep going with this. And this idea, this term of pivot has obviously become very common here, and it's one I've actually kind of grown rather tired of, honestly, but that's kind of that common term that we've been talking about really for the last, year and a half plus of this, when we initially started out thinking, hey, it's going to be 2 weeks, and now we're a year and a half plus into this. So, like I mentioned earlier, this episode's a little bit different. This is going to be really a culmination of our season 1. So we've done 60 episodes so far with, honestly, some really great guests, some great insights. I've really enjoyed the conversations, getting to talk to just other small business owners, kind of learning about their journey, learning about some of the challenges they've had over time in growing their own businesses. And one of the things I always coach with, working with business owners like the ones we've been talking to, is having this idea of a long-term strategy, a long game in business, because as I mentioned earlier, things are going to change, things are going to shift. We've got to have that long-term game in mind, because if we're constantly moving back and forth, we're wasting a lot of energy at nothing else, and quite possibly not being able to reach what our goal is at that point. And it's really that goal, to me, that's absolutely critical. We've got to have that top of the mountain, that pinnacle of the mountain that we're sitting there. This is our 10 to 15 year long range goal that we're climbing to. This is where we're trying to go in our business, and knowing full well that things are going to shift, things are going to change in between now and then, but that's still our long-term objective, is to reach that pinnacle of the mountain. And bringing that back down a little bit closer along the way towards that pinnacle there, along our climb right there, there's going to be different milestones, different stops along the way here where, like I was saying, we've got to simply stop, assess what's going on, potentially adjust, and then move out on to the next climb, the next leg of our climb right there, to go reach our pinnacle here that we're trying to go with our business. So when it comes to the Building to Scale brand, this is one of those milestones. So as I mentioned, this is going to be the culmination, the wrap up of season 1. We've got a lot of adjustments, a lot of changes, etc., being made right now in preparation for the launch of season 2. So we're not going away, just doing some adjustment and some reassessment here going into season 2. And the biggest idea with season 2 moving forward is really a renewed focus on 3 different ideas. The idea of basically saying, okay, how do we build a more profitable, a more scalable, and ultimately a more saleable business when it comes to being a small business entrepreneur? Because that's really is or should be your goal to say, okay, profitability is the key, scalability to where I'm not having to be the one doing everything 80 hours a week, and ultimately salability, because I don't want to necessarily be doing this forever, or the reality is simply bluntly, you won't be doing this forever. And hopefully it's a case you want to be able to build a business as a long-term asset. We've talked about this with other guests before, but treating your business as a long-term asset to where you can sell it to employees, you can sell it to outside investors, you can turn it over to friends and family, kind of a thing, if they want it. Either way, it's a saleable asset at that point, not just something that goes away when you decide, hey, I don't no longer want to be working, I actually want to retire here. So again, that renewed focus, profitability, scalability, and ultimately salability is what we're going to be looking at here, really tying each and every episode around those three key areas. And our goal here, and definitely hold us to this here, but our goal is to have every single episode contain some kind of a nugget, a tactic, a strategy, something around this idea of how do we build this strong foundation in your business to be able to be profitable, saleable, and scalable, and have that tactic or that strategy something that you can literally take away, go start working on in your business today, and go strengthen that foundation in your business. So in doing this, we're going to have one thing I'll go ahead and pull the cover off of here. We're going to have a change in format with really a couple different kinds of guests here. We're still going to be bringing the experts, and obviously if you're watching the YouTube video, you can see my air quotes here, but we've kind of touched on this before. Everybody's got expertise in their lane, so we're going to be bringing some of those experts in from their lane. So looking at sales, looking at finance, looking at marketing, operations, HR, all these kinds of other aspects that go into building a business beyond what you typically have expertise in if you're a lawyer, if you're an accountant, if you're a IT service company, whatever, a product development company. There's obviously a lot more to business than just building your product or your service right there. So we're going to bring in these experts there who can really speak to this idea of systemization in their area. So for example, sales may be talking about, okay, we won the lottery here. We've got that one rock star of a salesperson. How do we clone them now? How do we get what's in their head, in their ability, and train the rest of our team to bring them up to that level? There's systems, there's ideas, there's processes around that. Maybe we've got a process in place for in sales, figuring out, okay, how do we attract and qualify and bring in the right type of customer that we want while actively, honestly, repelling the customers that we don't want. And again, there's systems and there's processes around that. The other end of the spectrum with the business, maybe we're looking at the financial side, and we obviously know about tracking financial numbers, that we need to make decisions based upon numbers in the business. But the reality is, if you're purely looking at your financial numbers, i.e. what's our overall revenue for the year, overall profit for the year, what's our bank account balance, honestly, at that point, those are lagging indicators. Those are too late. We need to be looking at numbers earlier on in the business. So again, looking from a financial standpoint, bringing in some of these finance experts to honestly probably point out some numbers that you hadn't thought about or you aren't thinking about it. So again, looking at those kind of expert guests coming in. The other type of interview here that we're going to be adding on, I'm actually really excited about this one, and this is really an opportunity for you, the small business owner here, is that we're actually going to be bringing on small business owners onto the podcast and be doing effectively live coaching calls right there, breaking down real issues, real challenges that they've got in their business, and looking at, okay, how can we go about solving those? How can we go about putting some structure around those issues to help them move forward? So this should be topics, again, the hope here is that these are going to be topics that will relate directly to your business as to how they're dealing with, who knows, marketing, product fulfillment, whatever the issue is that they're dealing with right now. Maybe it's simply delegating, since we heard about that so many times in the first season here. But looking at those kind of ideas, again, being able to break them down in a real context with a real live small business owner here. This is not stuff we're making up. This is live coaching on the spot here. So really looking forward to getting some of those guests in. And again, if that's something that could be of interest to you, then again, we're definitely looking for guests in that standpoint. So a couple different things there. Like I said, pull the cover back on a few new things coming up. In addition, we're going to have a whole bunch of new resources, and I'm going to kind of leave the cover on those right now. So you'll have to actually check out season 2, episode 1 here coming up to learn some more about those new resources. But with that said, you don't have to wait too long on that. So the first episode for season 2, we're actually going to be dropping that on Monday, September 6th, 2021, if you happen to be listening to this in the future. But so that's only, I think, a week and a half away, 2 weeks away slightly. So not that far out there. But what I'm going to ask you here is, Building to Scale podcast here is on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on Google. Honestly, about a dozen other platforms, kind of a thing. I don't even remember them all. But most likely, wherever you're finding your podcasts right there, Building to Scale is there. So make sure you hit that subscribe button right there in your player. And you'll obviously get notice at that point of when season 2, the first episode, drops here on September 6th. And then I'm going to drop a link right here below in the show notes as well. But that link is buildingtoscale.com/launch. And if you go to that link, there's a quick little form right there. You can subscribe right there, and we'll send you an email notification again when that new season launches, as well as when some of those new additional resources come out. So they're really going to be designed, again, around this idea of building a more profitable, more scalable, more saleable business as we move forward into Q4 of 2021 and really beyond. So with that said, I'm going to sign off today here for season 1, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody here again. Remember, September 6th, 2021 for that launch of season 2 and a whole bunch of new resources really to help you strengthen that foundation on your business. In the meantime, take care.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Building to Scale podcast. If you would like to share your entrepreneurial business growth story, please visit buildingtoscale.com/guest. If you got something out of this interview, would you do both us and our guest a favor and share it on your social media accounts? Don't forget to hit subscribe in your player so that you don't miss any future episodes, and make sure to reach out to Jeff Chastain on any of the major social media networks, or check us out at admentis.com.